Where were you 20 years ago? I was a young pastor with a family with 3 kids, and we were starting this church in the city and decided to call it Midtown Fellowship. And what's crazy is when Midtown started, it was just a handful of people. Literally, I think we had maybe 4 people at the very first service of Midtown. And at that very first service, we began to pray that God somehow would use this little gathering, this little thing called Midtown Fellowship, to somehow impact this city for the good.
I mean, Dave, you started this thing. What's your earliest, fondest memory of Midtown?
My earliest memory of Midtown was getting a phone call from Randy Drawn when I was living in Indiana saying he was going to start Midtown. And when I think back to those early days, what I found coming to work for Midtown was what I found Midtown ultimately would be all about, which was a safe place for messy people to go on the journey of growing in the gospel and to be a part of a community that was saying, hey, we're going to lock arms and go on that journey together.
Yeah, I started coming to Midtown in old Rocketown days with a girl I was dating and now my wife, and thinking to myself, I don't know if I've ever experienced church quite like this, but also wanting more of it.
Wow. It's hard to believe that this movement called Midtown started with a very small group of people, 2 of them being college students, and God did something as spectacular as what He's doing right now. And in those early years when we were adding to our numbers 1 by 1 instead of 50 by hundreds, the Lord was birthing a couple of things in there. And one of the things that He was birthing was that we wanted to create a place that was really safe for people that had given up on church. In fact, maybe you've heard it put this way before, but we wanted Midtown to be a safe place for a very dangerous message. And that dangerous message was that Jesus not only loves you, but He's coming after you. And when He comes after you and He gets you, He's like, take up your cross now and follow me. We also wanted to kind of create the anti-church church. What I meant by that is we didn't want the Sunday morning services to be a show. In fact, we moved all our artists to the side, which is happening in most of our congregations even now. And we really trained anyone that's stepping up there to teach to realize that you're the chief servant in this room right now. You are not the star. They're not coming to see you. They're coming to hear a Jesus speak through you. So we worked really hard to invert the model of culture where the pastor is the star in the room to actually the pastor is the chief servant in the room.
One of the things that I think was just a hallmark, not only was this deep value of being in authentic relationships with one another and cultivating an authentic relationship with the Lord, but we just kept putting the gospel on the table. And what was powerful about the early days of Midtown is, hopefully what's still powerful about Midtown is we're not trying to be some super thing as a church. We're pointing to Jesus and saying He's what's super, He's what's incredible. And what's cool is that, at least for me, you get to do that as a messy person, not as a finished product. Like it was a safe place not only to be a messy person, but even to be a leader who is messy and who needs the very same Jesus that you're encouraging everybody else to lean into.
So we started our first congregation out of our downtown campus at 12 South. We didn't really understand the fuse that we were lighting. We hoped we were lighting the fuse that would explode into gospel transformation across the city, but we didn't really know. But boy, did that fuse light up. And we not only saw 12 South begin to grow, but then we planted another congregation in Creve Hall. And then we planted another congregation in East Nashville. And then we've planted this fall, under the leadership of Matt Avery, West Midtown, our 5th campus. And it's our hope in 2021 that we're going to be planting our 6th campus here in the city. And over those last, I say 15 years since we started 12 South, my role has changed somewhat to where I not only was the lead pastor for our downtown campus, soon to become our Granny White campus, but I was also the director of our movement. When we moved to this campus at Granny White about 3 years ago, it was astounding to me to see how enthusiastic our campus and our people were to come to this campus and to bring their friends. In fact, this campus began to grow, and our movement began to grow, and my responsibilities in both places began to grow. So about 2 years ago, I sat down with some of our key leaders and asked them to begin to pray with me, because these 2 jobs were becoming 2 full-time jobs, and it was just more than any one person could handle. We began to dream, and we began to pray, and we began to write up all these different kinds of scenarios that you could possibly imagine. And about a year ago, I went back to the leadership and proposed to them a new idea. The idea that I proposed to them would be that they would allow me to step up and be the leader of this movement, and to have the coaching responsibilities of growing our movement and dreaming about our movement and taking Midtown to even new places that we've not been before. And that they would allow me to step away from the Granny White campus and let's find someone else to come in and pastor this campus. Well, after much prayer and after much excitement, but also after many, many tears, the leadership here at Midtown has agreed that that's the best course of action. In fact, the only reason that we're able to even think about this is because God has blessed us with some amazing elders here at Granny White, who are not just leaders, but real prayer warriors for this community. He's also blessed us with an incredible staff of people that are doing everything from administrative to leading our discipleship movement, to worship leaders, to kid and family ministry directors. Like, you have an amazing team here at Granny White, and because there's an amazing team here, I believe that this is an exciting and hopeful future for our Granny White campus.
You know, I would say to Granny Whiters, I know that it's scary to have this man who God has used as a vessel to help you understand who God is and how He loves you and who you are in Him, and the way that He's led and cared for you and been a part of your major life moments, that He's stepping out of that role. I know that that's scary, but I also think it's a beautiful gift that the Lord is freeing you up to receive more of Him from different voices.
Looking at like the relationship in Scripture with Paul and Timothy, and how there's a lot of Timothys out there who don't have a Paul, and to think what a gift it's going to be for whoever comes in and however big this thing gets, to have somebody like Randy just pouring into their heart, I think is a huge gift.
And we've been talking for a long time at Midtown about the truth that the church is not about the person at the top of the pyramid, that that's actually a really unbiblical way to think about what church is. And so Randy stepping out of this role and someone else sliding into it at Granny White specifically is really us continuing to live out of what we believe is a deeply biblical truth.
You know, in the kind of church planting movement and endeavors that we're doing, having him as a coach for those kinds of things, just personally for me, makes me really, really excited, especially since the vision for the congregation that we're planting in Napier was a vision that Randy and I shared together, that really came to us together in those early days. And
I think about like the Israelites leaving Egypt, and like they had no idea where they were going. They just had promises to hold on to, and promises that were rooted in God's faithfulness to them already. And so when I think about Randy going to like change roles, it's scary and we don't know what it's going to look like and how it's all going to work out. But I go back to God's faithfulness to Midtown. We haven't done this before, but we've done this before. Like we've stepped into brand new things, unknown territories.
You've got this DNA, it's already there. And you've also got these other congregations around you who are in a session. And Randy himself, we're profoundly committed to whoever is stepping into that position being an absolute win for this community. And so I just think I'm excited to see who the Lord brings and how the Lord works in that process.
You may be wondering what this is going to look like. Well, I can tell you that starting this week, we are starting a national search for the person that God is calling to be the next pastor here at Granny White. And that search is going to involve many of you. It's also going to involve our entire sessional team and the leaders here at Granny White. And it is our prayer and it is our hope that God will bring somebody here this spring that will help us make this transition a reality. This is not a finish line. I'm not crossing a finish line. I don't see it that way. I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. But my heart is heavy with sorrow because of so much of what I've been through with so many of you at Granny White. And the idea of not being your primary pastor and being the person that you see every week stand up and give you the Word of God and pray for you and to be that intimately involved in your life makes me very sad. But at the same time, I get very excited to think that you as a community, along with me as we partner together, that we could see God do some things through our church, through Midtown, in ways that we've never seen before. It is my hope and dream that this is a starting line, not a finish line. And it's the starting line of new pastors that we're bringing to this city, new dreams about planting churches and community of color, dreaming about ways that we can serve this city and bring more of a gospel transformation than we ever have before. In fact, I believe now, maybe more than ever in this unusual season of COVID and social unrest and elections, that now is the prime time for the gospel to rise up and to speak and to bring its light to this city. And it is my great hope, even with sorrow, and it's my great joy, even with sorrow, that is what the Lord is doing. And my prayer is that you would partner with me and dream with me, be sad with me, but also rejoice with me as we make this transition to become more of who God is calling us to be here in this city.
I mean, we've had time to process this, so we don't want to diminish the feelings that our people may be having. Will you guys find us if you want to talk and if you want to process out loud and ask questions? We're here.
One of the things I've wrestled with in this is kind of like, what is Midtown if it's not Randy? And that's a reminder to us that Midtown Granny White isn't Randy Drawn. As much as we love him and as much as he's done to establish this congregation, it's the Lord, and it's the Lord's people, and it's us.
That's good. I mean, as I've been continuing to process it, you know, and stepping outside of myself and my own reactions, I've also kind of, as my peace has grown over it, I too have shared in this kind of exciting vision. It's okay that what he has for us could look different. And in fact, we can guarantee it will look different because we're not replacing Randy. It's not going to be Randy 2.0. But instead, we're stepping into this season of really asking the Lord, like, what is this next stage of maturity that you have for this congregation?
So I got excited kind of quickly for the movement of Midtown and for the gospel that Randy preaches to himself week in and week out and feeds other people. I got excited about the vision of him working in this new role.
I felt a peace in the knowledge and in the belief and in the truth that that the Lord is at work and that I know that this is what Randy is being called to, and it's what's next for Randy. And I think, and I believe in my heart, it's what the Lord is calling Midtown into as well.
I think we as a body now have a mission and a picking up the baton, as you would say it, where it's up to us to now say, who are we, and become a healthy movement that's beyond just one person. And so we need to let him go just as much as we also need to form and become a movement ourselves at this Granny White congregation that's going to require change and be hard. But that's as much of us as a unit, as a group, as a body come together for the better of the movement, just as much as Randy needs to go so this movement can keep growing beyond our boundaries just here.
We may not know it, but we know the one who holds the future, and that's our good Father. And together, we can actually bring hope into our sorrow and into our fear. And the way that we can do that, first of all, pray. Pray for your elders that will be participating in a search to bring the right person here. Pray for the right person, that God would make that abundantly clear. And then third, and then this is a big ask, Midtown, big ask, that when God shows us who that person is, and when God makes it very clear that God is calling this person, that you would welcome them as if you were welcoming me, that you'd embrace them, and that you would kiss them, and that you would pray for them and cheer them on as they bring their family, their hard work to this community to care for you. I also want to ask you to encourage our elders that are in the middle of making this transition. Encourage them and pray for them. And finally, if you have questions, even if you need to grumble, that you wouldn't grumble in silence, but that you would bring your questions and all your doubts and your grumbling to our elders or to me, and let us talk about it and let us embrace it together. We're a family, and as we go on this journey that won't be easy, but it will be beautiful, at least we go on it together.